Hello and welcome everybody to the Beacon of Light podcast this evening. And tonight we have Mr. Robert Pardi. Did I say that right? You got to tell
Oh,
me.
Pardi,
Pardi.
Pardi,
Look,
Pardi.
see the Italian. I have so many languages to learn, but here we go. We're so excited that he is here this evening, and we hope that all of you get a wonderful amount of information and meaning for you in all of this. But before we start with him, let's jump into this. I'm April Tribe Juke. Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. I believe we are all made with light, and light is hope. This podcast brings authors who write stories of hope to all of you. Your journey to be inspired and amplified by these stories starts now. And we are back. Thank you and welcome everybody tonight. Well, Robert, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm a New Yorker, even though you said the whole Italian thing. I live in Italy, but I'm from New York. I am an ex-investment banker who then just basically changed his life due to a life circumstance, which I guess we'll talk about. And really now what I do is I go around, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm also a life coach, showing people that it is possible to build the life they want, regardless of what's ever happened.
Yeah, the whole opportunity to build a life that you want, it seems so out of reach, right? And if you can see running on the ticker underneath us, he has an amazing book called Possibility in Action. And for all of you out there, you know that I love action. So, Robert, tell us a little bit about this book.
Sure. Actually, the title of the book is My Personal Philosophy. I'm a big believer in creating hashtags for ourselves. You know, everyone has a hashtag. Everything we buy has a hashtag. Why don't we have a hashtag? We're the most important product out there. So the way I look at it basically is that we have become habitualized. We've become basically blind to the possibilities that are around us because of the stories we've told ourselves, because of the environment we stay in, which is our comfort zone. And if we broaden our perspective, we're going to find that there are possibilities all around us. They might not be within, let's say, the box of expectations we had. And part of what possibility in action is all about is taking those expectations and breaking them apart and remaining in curiosity. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, you know, we all talk about, oh, it's not the destination, it's the journey, right? But what is the journey? And the journey is goals. It's a bunch of different things. But what I've come to realize through my own life circumstance, and I'm the child of an abusive alcoholic father, which taught me a lot of life skills. And honestly, I can say, I think gratitude is very important, but it's not just for the nice, pretty things. We have to look for gratitude in everything. And I'm very grateful for who he was and how I grew up, because it allowed me to deal with a situation with my wife, which we'll talk about. But what I've realized is the journey is curiosity. The journey is looking out and realizing that instead of trying to figure everything out, because we never will, instead of trying to study how we do life, it's about going out there and taking action. Because if you go back to the ancient philosophers, I'm really not saying anything new. None of us say anything new. The ancient philosophers didn't say study all these books. They said find what resonates with you and live it. Take action, go out there. So that's possibility in action.
Amazing. That idea of taking the action. So many of us get stuck, and I call it a comfort cage, and we build each bar out of fear or pain or worry and the lies that we tell ourselves, right? And it's not new. We might label it something new, so that comfort zone or that comfort cage really keeps us stuck. We don't have any action within there.
Right.
And so, like you were saying, the action, going out and find out what's possible. Boy, a lot of people open that gate or that door or the cage and go, no, I'm good. I'll have to stay right here.
Well, and that really begs the question, right? Because what is life? And we're so afraid of getting things wrong and all of these other things. And I talk about this all the time. I've said this on other podcasts as well. We die unfinished. So therefore, we're going to die imperfect, let's say. There will be mistakes along the way. There will be all kinds of things. But if we stay in this zone where we think we have control of everything, which the pandemic has shown us that even if we were in that cage that you call it, well, you know what? We don't have any control at the end of the day. So this says, well, you know what? Maybe life is in the attempt. It's not necessarily getting everything perfect, but it's going out there and tasting it and savoring it. And sometimes, you know what? You're going to bite into a sour apple. It's just going to happen. But does that mean you don't try other apples and you just sit there and you stay with a very bland diet, let's say? So for me, action is very important. And what I could tell you is I learned through a journey with my wife that our natural state is joy. We have lost connection. Children are so joyful. As adults, we lose that connection. And for me, what I realized is we just have to lean into joy. Most people stop and look at a rainbow and there's that little tickle inside, and that's joy. It's always there regardless of adversity. And my wife, who was an amazing woman, she was diagnosed very, very young and with metastatic breast cancer. She became the founding director of palliative care while having metastatic breast cancer at New York Hospital. And we lived around the adversity. I talk about this all the time. If life is a canvas, we don't take the adversity and use that as the dominant color. It's an accent color. And so what I realized, though, is without taking action, you're not developing any of that canvas. You're constantly painting the same thing. We're telling ourselves the same story over and over. And what I hope people who read the book or whatever other book they find is that, you know what? You have the pen to write your story. You talked about the cage, right? And I say that expectations are the bricks with which we build our prison. And if left unchecked, they become the warden. Because if we are building a life around expectations, everything else is blocked off.
Right. And that opportunity to see or wonder or be curious what is beyond that really stops. So the brave people, the ones who probably take your course, the people who've picked up your book, have that wondering of what is beyond the brick wall. And that makes a lot of curiosity really happen. So with the people who you work with, and I'll say who have looked over their walls, what have you helped them to discover?
Sure. And what I will say is they come to me not knowing how to look over the wall. They don't like looking at the wall anymore. They're tired of looking at the wall, but they don't have, let's say, the skill yet to look over the wall. And one of the things that we talk about is understanding pain tolerance. Change will only happen when the pain of staying where you are is greater than the fear of moving forward. And so to a certain extent, we discuss what opportunities, what possibilities might be outside the wall. And we talk about what a loss that is. And so you're there, you don't want to look at the wall anymore, but you're afraid to look over the wall or move past the wall. And once you realize or you can quantify the loss of living differently, of leaving behind a past that you don't want. And by the way, I just used leaving behind, and that's completely wrong. We never let go of anything. We carry it with us. We need to learn how to repackage it. Everything is part of who we are. That's when I talked about my father. I look at the way I'm living my life. I ask myself if I'm happy with who I am. If the answer is yes, I have to thank my father. I have to thank the bad things. If the answer is no, I have to ask myself what's under my control. So with my clients, we talk a lot about lost opportunities. That comes from the economist in me. It's opportunity cost. Um, we talk about the lost opportunities, but we also talk about the whole idea of, okay, so now you're here, and if you don't take action, what does your life look like in 10 years from now? And then we start to daydream. What could it look like?
I have to interrupt you right there.
Yeah.
On the daydreaming, what does it look like? How long does it take them to start daydreaming?
Oh, that's a great question. Wow. It really is individual. It really is. And I will tie that back to the pain fear thing, that equation. If they're really uncomfortable where they are, they'll be more open to daydreaming. But daydreaming is actually a process. It requires us in a way to play a little bit. And what I mean by play is, as adults, we do things always with an objective. If you sit down and color, there's no objective. You're just sitting there, you're enjoying that moment. And my second book is called A Pimby Tale. It's actually written in the, let's say, the style of a children's book, but it's for an adult to reconnect them to imagination and play, because that's what we need to daydream. So if people are willing to be a little foolish and start to daydream, and not the big things, the little tiny things, and look back at what they may have liked in the past and they forgot about, and start to engage in some things, the faster it goes. A lot of people, there's a great quote by Nietzsche that says, those that were seen dancing were thought to be crazy by those that didn't hear the music. Or insane, maybe he used. But it's the same theory, right? There's a lot of people that are like, oh, if I start to daydream and do that stuff, people are going to think oddly of me. Which then I say, okay, and this is perfect for you, April, because you talk about light all the time. Okay, if you have a light inside you and you shine it, the people that need sunglasses are not the people for you. So it's a natural filtering system. So if you start being a little more playful or daydream or connect to this childlike enthusiasm, which we give up as we get older, and people find it a little weird, they're not the right people for the next stage of your life. And that's hard to understand and move forward with that. But it's all part of the transition process and the transformation process.
Excellent. And I think that allows people the permission. And I loved how you said we got to start small, because I think the fear or the worry is, I don't know if I can dream big. Can I just start here? And you're giving permission of, yes, start right there. What is it? And I think, like you said, the progression and the momentum of that will carry forward into really putting these dreams. I know for myself, as a little girl, this dream and idea was clear out here, and I was here. And this was okay to think about, but the steps to get there were overwhelming or fearful. Or then I thought, nope, never mind. I'll just pretend that this maybe one day will probably, never happen. Okay. And I just accepted that. And then the question of, well, why not? Just see what happens. You're not doing it now. So just start. And I thought, okay, a lot of people think I'm crazy anyway. I mean, a mom of 9 kids. They're like, Lasta. I'm like, yeah, maybe. And, many people say, don't you know what happens with that? Don't you know, like, they have to grow? Sometimes I don't really have to think too far about that, because I'll just live right now. And with that idea of living right now in the moment, the expectations are opened. And
Yes.
that allows for more things to happen. And what I remember at the end of the night, or at the end of the day, is to think about who laughed today. What did they feel like when we went, you know, to bed? And there was just this moment of remembering, something really small. It's usually small within the day that really can make that pivotal difference for someone else. And I don't know how it always happens, but I know when I'm open to the opportunity, that, like you said, the light actually can do the touching that needs to happen. That's the magic. So if I'm just here to do those little pieces, okay, the possibilities truly are within the action.
Wow, you're speaking so much my language for so many different reasons. And those small moments, one of the things I say all the time, and I really did learn this with my wife, Desiree, is we only live in extraordinary life when we value the ordinary moments. Our life is made up of tiny, ordinary moments. If we're waiting for the big moment that we believe everyone is living on Instagram, we're missing out on it all. The other thing that you said as well, in terms of those expectations, our brain is created so we can forecast, but we have tricked ourselves, or we fooled ourselves into believing that we actually can. And we can to only a certain extent. So you said, why not try, right? When I showed up in Italy, I left investment banking. I was living in Dubai. I decided, you know what? I want to see what's possible. I showed up in Italy. I didn't speak the language. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place to live. I didn't know anyone. But I asked myself, what's next? What if I can pull it off? Not what if I can fail? What if I can pull it off? And the small steps, that's what Possibility in Action is all about. It has an introduction, but it's basically 52 different little passages with journaling prompts for people to start to think differently. And it's small steps. There's a thing called Kaizen, which you probably do know, but it was a philosophy we actually gave Japan after World War II, which is small incremental improvements. And that's how Toyota became the #1 car manufacturer way back when. And that's what it's all about. If we see what you talked about, and that's what sometimes visualization really crushes people, because they see the big thing and it's way too big. And there's no joy in that. There's no fun at all. Find something small that is what the person you would like to be would do. Or even better, if you're not sure what to do in a situation, if it's a very heavy situation, think about someone you admire and what would they do. We've fallen way too much into comparison today. We forgot about admiration and role models. Think about a role model. When you are stuck, when you're fearful, what would that person do? It will cause a shift for you to think differently, because we don't want to react to life. We want to respond. We want life to work for us.
Yes, to have life work for us. In the Possibility in Action, life can work for you. How many of you out there want that? That's the whole point. The whole point, and we label it differently depending on how our awakening happened. But really, if you can connect to someone else's awakening, that role model, and follow and see where the transition leads you, then you are truly living in action. And that is powerful. That is just a way to really understand the joy. And an amazing person who I follow has said that your joy is not based on the situation of your life. You can be joyful despite whatever situation is in your life. It is an action, it is a decision. And that is just so true, to put that in the forefront. And it's empowering to think, really? I have control if I'm happy or not? Wait a minute. And it just blows your mind. Awesome.
It's so true, because we have equated happiness externally now. Things make us happy, we accumulate. But like you said, it is under our control. Like I'm someone that doesn't get offended. I don't basically understand getting offended. Nobody can offend me. I can define it that way. You set boundaries, whatever the case is, but it is the way we react to things. I say to myself every morning, I have a morning practice. I have a beautiful quote I read, which I'll share with you. But I say to myself, I say, okay, what's essential for me to live the life I want to live? And that my perspective my emotions, my thoughts are under my control. And that is so important because it stops us from being a victim. And a lot of times we do walk through life feeling that life is happening to us. And why can't we look at it and say, life is happening for me? We're all going to confront things. Did I want my wife to pass away? No, of course not. This is life. This is not something that I am, a super being somewhere that I can control these things. I don't want them to happen. There's a grieving process with the loss. But at the end of the day, I can react and say, okay, now I want to build the next chapter. And there's nothing wrong with that. So the quote I would love to share with you as well for people to think about, and this is what I think Possibility in Action is all about. So it's by Richard Bach. It's from his book, One. And it starts off and it says, we are all born with a block of marble and the tools to craft it into a sculpture. We could leave it untouched. I define that as inaction. Imagine a big block behind us, we're just dragging it around, okay? He goes on to say, we can pound it into gravel. That's anger, in my opinion. Or we can shape it into glory. And I think that's what we're here for. Because the most beautiful thing, the real diversity in all of this, when we talk about diversity, is our stories. We leave our stories. Our true legacy is the way we've lived. And the next generation gets to use that if we leave something useful.
That's so true. The usefulness of your dad's legacy maybe was not what you had thought of or what many people think of, but it was a turning point, crux for you to say, it's going to be different with me. And that allows the beauty of the learn to really fuel more of what your life is about. And it stops the blaming. Isn't it exhausting to always look for whose fault it is, what the blame is for? Like, really? Why didn't you just see the beauty right there? And when people start to awaken and put down that victim, it is an unfamiliar journey filled with these ups and downs and so forth. But if you're willing to do it, aren't there a lot of people to go with you?
Yeah, 100%.
So the fallacy of you being alone on this journey is the total lie. You might have a lot of fear and worry, but really, you will find, like you said, it will attract the people who are also in that part of their position to keep going. And if they are not the victim, wow, you will see such joy in the small moments, and you're like, mind blown. This is amazing.
100%. It is so odd that somewhere along the line we have lost the connection with action. And because of the fact that we're afraid that it might not work out the way we expect it, we might fail. But time is passing. I talk about this all the time, precious time. Time is passing by. We can never recover it. We don't know when our time is actually up. If we're sitting and studying and trying to get it perfect and worried about making mistakes, haven't we lost the life that we were given? And that's why I'm such a proponent of taking action. If you think about a child, I always go back to children. A child learns how to walk because they get up and they fall, and they get up and they fall, and they get up and they fall. It eventually leads to something. But what, hopefully people that are listening to us will take from this is be curious also about the outcome. Could I have ever seen myself living in a medieval town in Italy of 900 people speaking Italian at my age? No, absolutely not. But I allowed myself to take, and this is another thing, to take a chance. A lot of people tend to wait for a chance. Let's take the chance. Let's get out of waiting.
Let's get out of waiting. Yes, waiting just takes that time away. And I think about a child, and probably because I'm surrounded by so many, their life and the changes. And today is actually, my son's birthday.
Oh,
And
wow.
thinking about, in his 11 years, what he's seen, what he's experienced, what makes him so excited and joyful there within these moments. And if we are waiting, they're going to keep growing. Weird thing, you add food and time to a kid, they grow up. It just happens. So if you're waiting for something, you're going to turn around and miss it. That's not new. But when you have that personal experience for yourself and you turned around and you've missed something, ooh, well, you don't do that again.
Yeah.
And you make sure that you take the action that is possible, because you have opportunities that are given. And I think sometimes given again, you might get that second chance, right? And if you do, grab it, take the action. It doesn't matter how messy, how ugly, how wonderful, how scary, how whatever your worries about it are. You're not doing it now.
Yeah.
So just try.
I was just, because I spent some time on the Adriatic coast in Italy, and I was speaking to some old fishermen because I'm a New Yorker. I don't know anything about fishing. And they told me that the best time to fish is when the sea is changing current. And it's in the change of the currents that all the nutrients come up and the fish come to eat. And that's the benefit of change, right? So in a way, it's all messy, like you said, but in that messiness, there's lots of opportunities. And the more I'm living my personal philosophy, the more I dive into it, which is why I wrote the book, because I felt like I should, the more I'm realizing that we really can't ever make a mistake because we don't know the outcome of any action we take. We are moving towards something, of course, but if we're curious and open, Tim Ferriss says, he's one of the most successful businessmen ever. He says he doesn't make any goals longer than 6 months because he wants to be open to opportunities that show up. So his goals are 3 and 6 months. It's nice to think about that 5-year goal, but could we have ever, thought about a pandemic or anything else that's happened, and it's happening sooner and faster? And look at, we're talking over, continents here. So, why not have an idea of where you're going, but also be open to know I'm never going to know everything. So let me take some action and see what comes from it.
That's right. Take the action, see what comes from it, because that door will lead to another window, maybe to a crack. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just go. Just go. And it is empowering and it is exciting. And I know y'all are scared out there. So just realize it. Yeah. You were totally confident when you're like, oh, I'm leaving here. I'm going to Italy. I got this. No. You were like, okay, here we go.
Oh, yeah. You have no idea how many times I was thinking, what did I do to my life? What did I do to my life? But I wanted to look back, and here's the key to all of this. It's not the stuff you have. It's not the job. What is the story you want to look back on? And I wanted to be an adventurer. I wanted to look back and know that I didn't miss out on life, and I took a shot.
That's right. And you're not going to miss it because you have the joy within the moment. The mess is found in all the opportunities. And so go, take your action. Thank you, Robert. Everyone, you can grab this book, Possibilities in Action. I'm going to put here up there on the screen. There you go. Grab this website, go right there. You can get this book. It's also on Amazon. But really, as you felt through this discussion, that if you are ready for action, why not? Don't wait. because in those waiting times, think about the little kids, man, they grow up and you'll have missed it. So don't wait, take the possibility within action. And thank you so much, Robert, for being a part of our amazing podcast tonight. And just thank you. I hope everybody have been empowered and excited about this.
This was an honor for me. I love your show, so thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.